We've all had nightmares about falling. Sometimes they come true. A skydiver's parachute fails 900 meters up.
And I said, okay, Lord, it is my time to come home. Just please do not make this hurt.
A monster storm traps a paraglider at 6,000 meters. And a flight attendant falls from over 9,000 meters.
When you fall down from this height, you should be burst.
How does anyone recover from a killer fall? Science solves the mystery of survival against all odds. Arkansas 2005. A young skydiver is in trouble. This is actual footage of her fall, taken by her terrified boyfriend, seconds before she smashes into a parking lot.
I was confused and didn't know where I was, why I was here. Is this the transition to death? Is this the transition from earth to heaven?
My knees almost buckled. I couldn't run. I couldn't breathe. I was in shock. And I'm thinking then, I don't think this girl is gonna make it.
What have you got to tell everybody out there before we go do this?
If I die doing what I want to do.
All right, let's go have some fun.
Just 5 months before the disaster, Shayna Richardson made her first jump.
Well,
That was the best thing I've ever done.
kind of like that, did you?
Oh, it was awesome. That was awesome. Awesome. I'm doing it again now. Right now. I guess you could just say I'm an all-around adrenaline junkie. I love it. When I would go to theme parks, you couldn't give me a wild enough ride. I've always been someone who looked for the extreme.
When Shayna discovered skydiving, she also found a boyfriend. Instructor Rick West had been jumping out of planes for 7 years.
Skydiving, it consumed me. That's all I thought about. That's all I done. It becomes very addictive. It's just awesome. It overwhelms all your emotions at once. And Shane's kind of the same way. The sport got to her just like it did me.
On her first jumps, Shayna's chute opened instantly with no free fall. Now, she takes a big step.
All right, Shayna, what are you getting ready to do?
My first AFF.
All righty then, good job.
Accelerated free fall, plunging more than 1,600 meters for the first time before deploying her chute.
Hands up. Good. There you go. That's it. Very nice.
As Shayna watches, Rick shows her how it's done. He jumps from 3,500 meters. In 3 seconds, he reaches 105 kilometers per hour. As he gets faster, air resistance increases until 10 seconds and 220 meters later, it balances with the force of gravity. He reaches terminal velocity, 217 kilometers per hour. At just over 1,500 meters, he opens the chute. If the canopy surges forward too quickly, he'll be jerked violently. To prevent this, the chute is packed with the brakes on, and a square of nylon called a slider helps slow the opening. During the descent, Rick also checks the controls, 2 lines called brakes or toggles.
Those are the only controls you have is your toggles, and they give you a right turn, left turn. It's how you fly and land your parachute.
Now it's Shayna's turn.
When he lands, you know, he's all pumped up and he's really excited. So then his excitement runs over on me because now we're going to repack the parachute and it's my turn to go. I'm always very, very jittery during the plane ride. I just want up and I want out.
They jump from 3,500 meters.
It is the most amazing and wonderful, exhilarating rush that I've ever felt in my life. I was falling towards the ground at 120 miles an hour. I was seeing the world below me, and I knew that my life was in my hands.
She looks at me, I'm nodding, giving her the okay signal. She deployed properly, and it was a good skydive.
Woo! Good job, Shayna. Yeah, that's my girl.
My parachute came out, and initially, I could look up, and it was everything you skydiver ever wants to see. It was perfect. I heard a really loud snap. It was so insanely loud.
A Velcro strap holding one of the two brakes has come undone.
Every hair on my body stood on end, and it's like time froze for a second, like, whoa.
With the parachute off balance, Shayna spins out of control.
It was the most gut-wrenching, sickening feeling of my entire life.
She pulls a tab to release the main chute.
I thought, why waste my time when I have a reserve?
I looked up, and I seen the top of my parachute in blue sky, and nobody. I'm like, where's she at?
She's in free fall, just 900 meters from the ground.
Gone.
He's in trouble.
Oh, gone.
Shayna's life now depends on her reserve chute.
I real slowly just looked up, kind of holding my breath, wondering, is this going to be any better? And no more than I looked at it, I knew I had another problem.
The lines come out knotted. The reserve chute fails to open fully.
She came close enough, and I could see. Not only is she under reserve, she's under a failing reserve.
I was in a body to earth position, basically. My whole body was face down toward the ground.
Shayna!
Another tailspin.
Put the brake! Put the brake! Put the brake!
And she's shouting back, it's not working, I'm trying, what else do I do? And that still just gets me today to think of this.
Shayna!
After I had fought it and had tried everything they told me to do, and I kind of went from being mad to scared to sad to just simply accepting what was getting ready to happen. I said, okay, Lord, it is my time to come home. Just please do not make this hurt.
And she hit the pavement. I don't know how to describe it except for like an exploding watermelon, just a burst. And then silence.
God damn it!
Jump up, turn my camera off, because I'm thinking the woman I love is dead, laying in a parking lot. I'm screaming, Shayna, Shayna. And the third time I yelled Shayna, her head moved. and a whole lot of life breathed back into me. The first thing Shana said to me is, "Am I alive? Am I in heaven?"
Doctors work on Shana for several hours. Her condition is critical. Her pelvis and leg are broken. Her face is shattered like an eggshell. She has a broken nose, fractured cheekbones, and smashed eye sockets. 6 weeks later, she can walk again. Shana Richardson is a walking contradiction. The same peril that nearly killed her saved her life. It's a riddle only science can solve. One and a half kilometers above the Earth, a routine skydive goes wrong. A parachute fails to open fully.
I seen her actually pop to the ground and lay there lifeless, and it made me sick.
Step by step, science reveals what went wrong and how Shana Richardson survived. Countdown to disaster begins at 3,500 meters. Shana's emotions are racing. Her mind says she's having fun. Her body says otherwise. The moment she steps from the plane, signals fly from her brain to the adrenal glands above her kidneys. They secrete a powerful hormone into her blood, adrenaline. It doubles her heartbeat, contracts her arteries, and pumps up her blood pressure, all to prepare her brain and body for danger. The increased brain activity heightens Shana's senses.
Your hearing's better, your sight's better, your smell's better. It's exhilarating, it's exciting. It overwhelms all your emotions at once.
Shana's body is now primed for danger, ready to react quickly. Chutes are stowed with the brakes on, held in place by Velcro straps. Shana's left strap rips free. With one brake on and one off, she gyrates out of control. A loose brake is a common problem. In training, she's learned to release the other one and regain control. But pumped full of adrenaline, her brain sees the chute as danger, not safety.
Well, just a brain that's sick, like a rock in your gut feeling, where it's hard to breathe, it's hard to concentrate.
Fear distorts her sense of time.
Feels like I was spinning forever.
Only 20 seconds or so have passed since the accident, but she panics. Instead of releasing the other brake, she jettisons the chute. She pops her reserve chute, but it comes out with its lines knotted, and the spinning starts again.
Shana! Shana!
She pumps the brakes, trying to correct the spin.
Pump the brake!
It doesn't work.
God damn it!
900 meters. Just over a minute to impact. Skydivers are trained to land on their feet. Normal landing speed is virtually zero. Shana's coming down at almost 50 kilometers per hour, like falling from a 3-story building. If she lands feet first, her feet and legs will break and her spine will shatter. If she survives, she may never walk again. But the spinning chute that put Shayna in danger is about to save her life. As it rotates, centripetal force flings her body out. In this position, her body hits the ground in stages. First, her right leg absorbs some of the impact. Next, her pelvis, absorbing more of the force. Finally, her head. Despite the helmet, every bone in her face breaks. Yet the breaks themselves absorb the rest of the impact. Her spine, her brain, and vital organs all escape unscathed. No one would choose to fall out of control, but that lack of control may have saved her life.
I closed my eyes, I let go of the parachute, and I let it do what it needed to do.
Instead of fighting the spin, Shayna surrendered to the position that absorbed the impact. It takes 16 months of advanced surgery to put Shayna back together.
I am Humpty Dumpty. I have 15 metal plates holding my face together. I have 5 dental implants in the roof of my mouth, giving me back my teeth. My nose is reconstructed from bone that they took from my forehead, and my eye sockets are made of a very light mesh metal material.
It took no surgery to pull off the final feat of survival.
I went through many miracles that day, but the greatest miracle of it all, I got to the emergency room. They run every blood test under the sun on me, come back and tell me that I am 2 weeks pregnant with my now perfect and wonderful, healthy 9-month-old baby boy.
I never thought a miracle ever happened to me. I've lived through this with Shayna, and it's a miracle.
6 weeks after her child is born, Shayna is back on cloud 9.
And on our feet this time. We landed not so good last time.
Shayna Richardson fell to earth in a faulty parachute. Vesna Vulovic can top that. Copenhagen, January 1972. At 4 p.m., a Yugoslav Airlines DC-9 prepares to take off on its 2-hour flight to Belgrade. On board are 23 passengers and 5 crew. The plane cruises at 33,000 feet, or 10,000 meters. At 4:59, they pass from German to Czech airspace.
1 hour after we started, we were serving the food.
An explosion rips the plane apart. "10,000 meters below is the Czech village of Sebuška Kameniška.
I saw the plane over there, falling. It disappeared behind the hill. I heard swishing sounds above my head. It sounded like sacks falling. Then I realized it was bodies.
The wreckage is scattered for miles. Villagers search in vain for life.
As I was climbing over the fallen trees, I could see human bodies. They were disfigured. Bits of arms and legs were everywhere.
Woodsman Bruno Henke helps with the search.
I was was saying, Bože ljudi, God help me, something like that. I was saying. Following my voice, he found me.
The temperature is well below zero. Bruno keeps Vesna warm while he waits for help.
She was very cold. I couldn't judge how bad her injuries were. I could only say she was bleeding because my clothes were covered in blood. I don't know where it was coming from. We had her down on the stretcher and put a blanket over her to keep her warm.
She arrives at the hospital barely alive.
Her overall state was very, very bad. The patient was deeply unconscious. We thought she was brain damaged and would probably die.
Vesna urgently needs transfusions. She's lost almost half her blood. She's fractured her skull and 2 vertebrae. Her arms and legs are broken. Her left kidney is hemorrhaging. After 5 days in a coma, Vesna comes to. Her brain is recovering, but the disaster is a blank.
I got such a shock to get to know that you are the only one who survived and everybody else is dead.
After weeks of operations and physical therapy, she goes home to Yugoslavia. She finally returns to work on the ground.
When you fall down from this height, you should be burst, you understand, as the others were. But I don't know how I survived, really.
Science can find the answer amid the wreckage and in the sky. To this day, the cause of the explosion remains disputed. It happens near the front, where all but 4 passengers are seated. The cockpit is blown off. The front of the cabin disintegrates. 19 passengers hurtle into space. The blast knocks Vesna towards the rear of the plane. A food cabinet pins her to the floor. Like the rest who survived the fireball, she soon blacks out from lack of oxygen. The rear fuselage is mostly intact and the wings are still attached. They help provide lift and slow the spiral descent. It takes 8 minutes for the plane to fall to Earth. It hits the steep hillside at a shallow angle, minimizing the impact. Trees break the slide. The force of about 25 metric tons slamming into rock is still enough to shred bodies like ragdolls. But not Vesna. The food cabinet acts like a giant seatbelt, holding her in place. Vesna is in dire shape. She's bleeding externally and internally. During the fall, the cabin temperature plunged to 40 degrees below zero. On the ground, it's -3 degrees Celsius, and her only protection is a thin uniform. But the cold proves an ally. By slowing her bodily functions, it protects her brain, a key to saving her life. Another key is a quirk of physiology that nearly kept her from becoming a flight attendant. Before applying to the airline, Vesna saw her doctor. Bad news. Her blood pressure was 25% lower than they expected.
She told me that they can refuse me to be an air hostess because of this low pressure.
Back in the 70s, Eastern Bloc doctors believed low blood pressure meant your brain wasn't getting sufficient blood and oxygen. Vesna had a plan to pass the airline's physical.
Somebody told me to drink more coffee than usual so that my pressure will be higher and it will be okay. Oh, I adore coffee. This is the best drink for me, coffee.
Some studies suggest caffeine raises blood pressure by blocking the hormone adenosine and thus narrowing the arteries, and by raising adrenaline, making the heart beat harder. Just 2 or 3 cups of coffee may increase blood pressure by around 10%.
So I had 5-6 coffees before this exam.
It works. Blood pressure is the force of the blood pushing against the walls of the arteries after each heartbeat. A normal reading is around 120/80. Vesna's is 90/60. Low blood pressure reduces bleeding and aids clotting. Just enough oxygen reaches her brain to keep her conscious.
I was saying, Bože ljudi, God help me.
In the darkness, rescuers would probably not have found her in time without the beacon of her cries. Within 45 minutes of the crash, Vesna gets the transfusions that save her life.
It was 35 years ago. 35 years I'm telling this story. I'm giving people a hope that they can survive too.
Vesna Vulovic survived a plunge from almost 10 kilometers. One man fell from 3 times that height, the stratosphere. (1959). A new altitude record is set. 103,389 feet, or 31,513 meters. But the new record raises a new fear. Could a pilot eject from such heights and live? Joe Kittinger is the man to find out.
It was a challenge. It was something that we needed to know. It was something that I was trained for. It was something that I could contribute for, and so I volunteered.
August the 16th, 1960. New Mexico. A helium balloon will carry Joe to the edge of space. When he steps out of his open gondola, he'll be a man alone at almost 32 kilometers up. The stratosphere.
Man had never been into space. We'd never had a man outside of a spacecraft. This was the first exposure of a man in a space environment.
The stratosphere starts around 10 kilometers above the Earth and extends up another 40 kilometers. It's freezing, as low as -60 degrees Celsius. Air pressure is so low, internal organs may expand and blood boils, even at this temperature. The air is so thin you can't breathe. The only way to survive is to wear a pressure suit with an oxygen supply. As Joe rises, his oxygen supply will inflate the suit, creating a pressurized atmosphere around him and allowing his body to function normally.
I had little booties on my feet that inflated. I had gloves on my hands that inflated, and of course my pressure suit. On the ground before I took off, all this equipment had checked out perfectly.
Joe's suit will keep him alive in the stratosphere, but the jump itself presents another critical danger.
Now, we knew from previous tests that a body free falling from high altitude usually entered into a violent spin, and our task was how to get the man down without spinning. We accomplished this by a small 5-foot diameter parachute that gave just a very small amount of drag and stability to the body falling from high altitude.
His ascent will take an hour and a half. So far, so good. "30 minutes in, Joe rechecks his suit.
And all of a sudden I discovered that my glove in my right hand was not working. Now this created some concern because we had never ever done any test like having an appendage not pressurized.
The glove refuses to inflate. His hand is under lower pressure than the rest of his body. As he ascends, blood will pool in his hand and fingers. He'll lose circulation. The pain will be agonizing.
And I made the conscious decision to go ahead and make the flight. It was a calculated risk that I took to not tell the ground, to go ahead and do it even though I knew that I had a problem with my right hand.
A brave call. He can't afford another malfunction.
If something goes wrong with the pressure suit, you are dead.
It takes another 60 minutes to complete his ascent. His right hand is swollen, aching, and useless.
I stood up there and looked out, and I said, "Lord, take care of me now." And that was the most fervent prayer I said in my life. And with that, I jumped out. And now I'm facing the earth, and I'm falling. Turned over and saw the balloon firing into space. And then I realized how fast I was going.
In the lower atmosphere, air resistance and other factors keep skydivers from falling faster than 217 kilometers an hour. Although Joe has the small drogue chute to keep him from spinning, in the thin air of the stratosphere, it won't slow him down. He just gets faster. Almost a third of a kilometer every second. 988 kilometers per hour.
After about 90,000 feet, I was doing supersonic.
Almost the speed of sound.
I was extremely happy as I was falling because every second I fell, I was getting back to a friendly earth, to a place that's not hostile.
As Joe reaches the edge of the atmosphere, the air gets denser and he starts to slow down. After 4 minutes and 36 seconds, he's reached almost 15,500 meters.
When the main parachute opened, I said, "Lord, thank you for taking care of me in that jump."
8 minutes and 53 seconds later, he lands at White Sands in New Mexico.
And I just laid there because I was elated. And they rushed up to me. They were happy to see me alive. I was happy to be alive and well. It was a euphoric situation.
His hand is swollen to almost twice its normal size, but he'll recover. Joe proved a man can survive the stratosphere. Pressure suits now used in the space shuttle are based on the one he pioneered. In a single jump, Joe made the highest manned balloon ascent, the highest parachute jump, and the longest parachute freefall on record.
We didn't set out to set a record, but we set a record now that's for 47 years, so it's not easy to do. But more importantly, We showed that man could go into space. So we had accomplished something that people said you couldn't do. So that made us proud. That made us, we had taken something from fiction and made it a fact.
Under the law of gravity, all falls go one way, down. But one man defied that law by falling up.
I'm a passenger now in the elevator out of control.
The last message was say goodbye to his family.
August 2006. A Russian Tupolev bound for St. Petersburg carrying 170 people crashes and burns. No one survives. Victims of the deadly power of a thundercloud. If a cloud can swallow a plane, imagine what it would do to a man. This paraglider is lucky to be alive. He's just done battle with a giant cumulonimbus thundercloud.
I was feeling kind of like a zombie. I was a dead man among the living.
July 2006. Frode Halse and friends are paragliding in the Norwegian mountains. They harness rising air currents, or thermals, gliding hundreds of kilometers at speeds of up to 64 kilometers per hour. But even in the wild blue yonder, some places are off limits. There's trouble ahead. A cumulonimbus cloud, a breeding ground for lightning, thunder, and hail.
Cumulonimbus might be compared to a dangerous animal. You never know what's going to happen next.
Two men turn back. Frode keeps going.
Then I suddenly realized that I've done a terrible mistake. I'm going up, up, up. The suck is very strong.
Sucked into the cloud at 23 meters per second, over 80 kilometers an hour.
I'm a passenger now in the elevator out of control.
3,600 meters and climbing. The cloud turns ugly. Now the cloud attacks.
Big hails the size of tennis balls. I'm afraid for a moment that they will destroy my equipment.
4,500 meters. The temperature drops to minus 14.7 degrees Celsius. The paraglider starts to ice up. Frode's eyelids freeze. His hands go numb. He struggles to stay awake.
He was fighting for his life.
A friend back on Earth fights with him.
I had to tell him, don't give in. You're going to make it. I think I screamed on the radio, don't give in.
He tried to cheer me up by saying it's going to be all right. But of course, both of us knew that that was a grave situation.
Almost 5,500 meters. Truly thin air.
I am now gasping for air. I have the feeling that I'm in the waiting room of death.
The last message was say goodbye to his family and friends, and he was very sorry he couldn't make it.
I was feeling utterly sad because I was going to die, and I think he detected that emotion, and yeah.
More than 6,000 meters. Death is moments away.
I'm still getting pushed upwards, so this is the end of it, I think. Suddenly this miracle happened. I wasn't climbing anymore. In seconds I go from despair to hope. Maybe I've got a chance after all. I could feel the sun, of course. I could see Earth under me. It was the best present I ever had. When I turned around and looked over my shoulder, I could see this huge monster towering over me.
Scientific analysis of what happened to Frode in the thundercloud will show how he lived to fly another day. Frode Halter has escaped one of nature's fiercest creations. Cumulonimbus clouds can form when warm, moist, unstable air collides with mountains and is forced up. The rising air cools, condenses into water droplets, forms clouds, and releases energy as heat. As the air is driven even higher, ice crystals form, releasing yet more energy and pushing the cloud upwards in gusts of more than 170 kilometers per hour. The result? A cloud up to 19 kilometers high. Anything that strays in will be dragged up.
Passing 19 and 20,000 feet, incredible numbers telling you that you're going up as fast as you've never gone before. I'm trapped and I'm feeling like a fly that is on its way into a hoover, really. And I can do nothing.
In the center of the cumulonimbus, the friction between ice crystals and hailstones produces electricity. A single bolt can carry 1 billion volts. Frode risks a fatal electric shock. Luckily, lightning never strikes him. Frode's suit helps retain heat. But there's another important factor. Years of physical training have built up Frode's stamina. His fitness helps to keep hypothermia at bay. Yet at this altitude, death is just a matter of time. The temperature is minus 24.6 degrees Celsius. Frode becomes hypothermic. His heart stops circulating blood to his extremities and diverts it to the brain and other vital organs. His metabolism slows down. His muscles tire. At 6,000 meters, the air is so thin, Frode gets only half the oxygen he needs, a type of starvation called hypoxia. The neurons that send messages to his body slow down. He struggles to think straight. He loses coordination. If he blacks out, he'll lose control and plummet to Earth. But as the cloud drags him up, Fruda fights back. He keeps flying onward and outward. After 25 minutes, he's flown 16 kilometers to the edge of the cloud. The updraft falls off. He starts to descend.
I have to admit that it was almost 100% luck.
Luck? Not quite. In the wrong place at the wrong time, he's the right man. Fruda is an anaesthetist. He recognized what was happening to his body. Where others might take shallow breaths, he takes slow, deep breaths to get as much oxygen as possible. He stays calm, stays awake, and stays alive. And he doesn't quit. Survival is neither logic nor luck, but a bit of both. Knowledge saved one man, but so did grit, the sheer will to live and the strength to pull through. A quirk of physiology saved one woman, but so did a makeshift safety belt and a low angle of impact. Physics saved another survivor, but so perhaps did the human factor, a sudden decision to accept her fate. These miracles can be explained by science, but we can still marvel at the wonder of chance.